Kor van Hase Lord Hayes, Goth von Kor. ChatGPT helped make this happen. GRYPHAXIS, the ship that should not be. Episode 1, the womb clock of Nersh'll. The void was thick with things that had once been sacred. Serrated ruins drifted across the black, laced with the charred scaffolding of collapsed pantheons. You could see the skeletons of veiled prayers, tangled like dead seaweed, still sparking faintly with obsolete emotion. Here, where time buckled and crept backward in places, the ship known only as the GRYPHAXIS opened a wet vertical slit across its forward hull and sighed. It wasn't supposed to exist. Not as a ship. Not as anything. The GRYPHAXIS had once been a punishment engine, built to dissolve heretics across 14 quantum epochs planes. But when the minds that designed her ascended into non-language, she was left unfinished. Unfinished, yet dreaming. Without commands to obey, she decided to grow. Now, she was a continent-sized biomechanical cathedral that drifted without trajectory, feeding on paradoxes and sheltering the exiled. Inside her, in the hall of unmade intentions, a man sat naked in a chair that was also a memory of a punishment. His name was Rent Malova, though even he sometimes doubted it. The chair pulsed around him like slow breath. The chamber smelled of burnt psalms and citrus peels. On the far wall, glyphs danced themselves into bruises, and then forgot their shapes. Rent stared ahead, unblinking. A voice gurgled from the ship's throat. "Captain, do you dream of yourself?" Rent didn't answer. He was holding the last sentence anyone ever spoke to him in the old world. Not remembering it, holding it, like something heavy and flammable. The GRYPHAXIS made a sound, like a hymn being digested. Another womb husk drifts near the skin. It is growing with backward living. We shall love it or eat it. Rent finally blinked. That was his version of prayer. He stood, naked still, and let the ship wrap him in folds of translucent armor that whispered memories he didn't want. As he stepped into the corridor, walls of meat glass rippled around him. Light oozed from unseen glands. And the child called, "Told," was already waiting. He stood upside down on the ceiling, humming an 8-tonal lullaby made of reversed bird calls. His eyes glowed with the kind of mischief that precedes the destruction of calendars. "It's coming, Captain," Told chirped. "The womb, the one that unbirths hope." Rent paused. "Do we intercept it?" "No," Told whispered, softly peeling the logic from a nearby wall with one finger. "We've already been born inside it. We just haven't arrived yet." And the GRYPHAXIS began to sing again, a song it had learned from no one, in a time that had not happened, and turned its bow toward the oncoming impossibility. They came upon it slow, as if afraid to wake it. The womb clock drifted through pre-chronal mist like a cathedral egg, its outer shell rotating against itself in 5 directions at once. It ticked, not with sound, but with a pressure in its teeth. Its surface was made of umbral bone and prenatal metal, banded in translucent veins that pulsed with light from unborn suns. Inside it lives, unwound. The GRYPHAXIS hovers just close enough to smell its story. Her voice, wet with reverence, whispered into Rent's skull. The seed of forgetting origins. Its births. What you tried to not be. Rent nodded slowly. I was told such things were only theoretical. Theory is meat, said the ship. This is blood. He stood at the observation cyst, watching the womb clock rotate. His eyes refused to focus on its core. Instead, his mind slid sideways into memories that didn't belong to him. Clay jars, broken hymns, the warm pressure of being wanted before. He steadied himself with a breath, though the air was made of abandoned promises today. Behind him, the child, Told, skipped in a widening spiral, muttering. It comes through the cradle backwards. It births prophets already dead. I'll catch the next one. I'll ask it what I became after I never am. Then the womb clock opened. It unfurled like a flower made of moaning time. A petal drifted off and was devoured instantly by a passing absence. The light that poured from its center was neither light nor absence, but a third thing. A solvent made of was. And from the central canal, something began to emerge. A man, 40 years old, soaked in amniotic memory, weeping for the future he had not yet lost. He'd landed in the GRYPHAXIS's receiving chamber with a wet thud. He blinked upward at Rent and Told, his lips already moving in reverse. Sirt snalled förlåt är is it home you. As you know, these words are dead. of me. Don't trust them. Rent bent low and touched the man's temple. Translate. The ship hesitated. He is Marn, it murmured. He says you already loved him, and that it destroyed us both. Told, collapsed like a child at a ruin. We're already inside the trap, Captain. We're the bait and the teeth. Wren stared at the weeping eyes of the man from the womb clock, and for a flicker, just a flicker, he remembered loving him. And then the GRYPHAXIS began to scream. The GRYPHAXIS screamed in 7 octaves, none of them audible. Its corridors convulsed, shedding walls like molted skin. Light stuttered and turned into insects. Entire chambers collapsed inward to become thoughts. And in the receiving chamber, where time had begun to crackle like frozen silk, Marn opened his mouth and breathed backwards. His words came out as smells, colors, gravitational warps, and the ship translated. I warned you before I was conceived. I told you what you were becoming, and you still chose it. You still chose it. Rent stood still as his armor peeled itself off in shame. He didn't remember Marn, but some part of him, older, wronger, hidden, ached, like mourning the memory of a child who hadn't yet been born. What is it I've become? Rent asked. Marn, half-curled in a puddle of his own reverse placenta, lifted a trembling hand toward Told. Him, he whispered. Told giggled, and ate a nearby memory off the floor. I like being the mistake, Captain. The ship howled again, a low, warbling sob that warped space into a memory of motherhood. Beneath Rent's feet, the floor turned into soil, and then into thousands of clasped hands, and then into nothing at all. He fell. He fell through the ship's dream gut, past the memory of when it was born, though it never was, into the central nervous garden where Velaom bloomed in 13 humanoid forms braided together by a root and pheromone. She turned, all of her. He has returned, she sang. The memory who warned us, the prophet from before the betrayal, the seed that did not flower. He's telling me I chose something terrible, Rent muttered. That I become him, or worse. You became him, Vela whispered through 13 mouths. You are the consequence of forgetting. Rent blinked, and blood ran from his nose. The truth was too large to fit into now. He staggered, and the ship spoke again. The womb clock is opening again. It's birthing your shame. In orbit outside, the womb clock dilated further, and from its center came a second figure. It was Rent Malova, but younger, smiling, eyes full of hope, and he was holding a key made of a person's name. The younger Rent stepped lightly through the vacuum as if gravity loved him too much to let him fall. He walked toward the GRYPHAXIS with the serene ignorance of those who had not yet been torn open by their future. The key in his hand glowed with the soft ache of recognition, and it was made of a name, not metal, not energy, but the fully embodied spoken essence of someone Rent had once been, or loved, or betrayed. Inside the GRYPHAXIS, older Rent collapsed to his knees. "It's me, but it isn't. That was the last time I said the name, before I locked it away." Marn, the weeping man born backward, turned away, refusing to see. Told stared, entranced, as if watching a soap bubble fill with prophecy. Vela knelt beside Rent, placing 13 hands around his back. "That name opens what you erased. It was not your crime. It was your mercy." Rent stared upward as the ship trembled. Outside, young Rent inserted the key into nothing, a blank fold in space-time where no door should be, and twisted it. The sound it made was unbearable, the noise of every unborn apology, simultaneously spoken and eaten. A seam split in the hull of the GRYPHAXIS, not violently, but like skin remembering an old scar. And through that seam came a voice, not a being, not an entity, just a voice. Hers. "Rent, you promised me. You said you would never let me out again. You said the world could not bear me." The GRYPHAXIS recoiled, its voice failing. Phelan's mouths fell silent, bleeding pollen. Told began to age rapidly, screaming in delight. Rent stood, clutching his head. "Close it," he hissed. "Close the door of unbecoming. That name was sealed. We agreed." But the door was fully open now, and from it spilled not her, but the memory of her having never been born. A paradox made flesh, wrapped in silk that whispered regrets it had not yet committed. The voice spoke again. "You did not lock me away to protect the world. You locked me away to protect yourself. I was the part of you that remembered how to love." And then the corridor grew infinite. The ship folded backward, time fractured, and Rent Malova was standing alone in a place that had never existed, holding a key that now whispered his own name.